Rako, Ramsey, Rapid River, Drummond Island, Ripley, Rudyard, Rumley, Sugar Island, Gastronema, Brimley, Tapiola, Munising, Gulliver, Mohawk, Garden Corner. Hi, this is Jim Islip with MSU Extension, and this is What's Up at Uprec on July 27, 2021. Today we'll have an update about the deer fence construction here at the North Farm at the Upper Peninsula Research and Extension Center in Chatham, Michigan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Paul Naasz, Farm Manager of the Upper Peninsula Research and Extension Center in Chatham. And we're here today to provide an update on how our deer fencing project is going at the North Farm. We had a previous video where we were setting posts and setting corners. And what we did is we went around and set all the corners in first, and then went around and set our line posts in place. Quite a project. There's like 169 posts that we planted up here. Things went pretty good. We've kind of been working on it when we get the opportunity. You know, like it rained last night. So when we get some rain events or in the mornings before we cut hay, we come out and work on the fence. So basically, we have a 10-foot high fence. We're going to go up to 6 feet. The wires are going to be spaced at 6 inches apart, and the rest of the top will be at 8 inches apart. So we're going to have a 10-foot high fence. Every other wire is going to be a hot wire, and these are the ones with the porcelain insulators, and then the other wire will be a dead wire. And we leave a little tail on the end when we wrap the wires around the post so that we can flip that tail up and connect it, the dead wire to the dead wire and the hot wire to the hot wire, so that all the wires will be, the dead wires will be hooked in series, and the hot wires will be hooked in series. We can just come out with our energizer and attach somewhere in the fence to one of the wires, and then all the wires will be hot. Also on the dead wire, we will place a ground rod, and we will actually ground with a ground rod to the dead wires. And I think that's real critical, especially when we look at how deer go through fence. Deer normally jump through the fence, and it's amazing how you think, how do they get through 6 inches? But you know, they can stick their feet out, and they're very agile creatures, and pretty amazing creatures actually, and they can slip through that fence. Well, when they jump through it, all their feet are off the ground. So if they're not in contact with the ground, they won't get a shock from the fence. So by grounding all these dead wires with a ground rod, if they go through there, they should get a pretty good jolt then to encourage them not to do it again. And so that's the whole idea behind the deer fencing. We're actually standing right here in a gateway, and so how we handle that in a gateway is this: we had a gate here previously, but we have an insulated wire, and then we also run it inside a small water pipe, and we bury it under the gate. So that's how we attach the wire to the hot wire here, and then we can jump under the gate to the next string of fence. Okay, so when we put these wires up, every other one is hot. So we have to put an insulator on, and this is just a big thick plastic walled tube that we slide on, and you got to be careful when you're stringing your wires. You got to count your posts, count out your insulators, and you got to slide these on the post before you tie off the end of your wire. You just need to make sure you get that right. The dead wires we just staple, don't use an insulator. The bottom 6 wires or 3 feet, we use these pin locks on every wire. We started our fence, the bottom wire dead, because we get a lot more grass down there, and the grass, especially if it rains, can really lower the voltage on your fence. But we use pin locks on the bottom 3 feet because we get 170 inches of snow here, and mainly in the spring when that snow starts to melt, it really drags these wires down and creates a lot of pressure on your corners. And in my opinion, that's when we lose our corners and put the most pressure on them, is in the spring when the snow's melting. So by putting a pin lock in here, we can come around in the fall of the year, pull those wires off and lay them on the ground so that we don't have any snow pressure on these wires. And although we get 170 inches of snow, generally we don't have more than 3 feet on the level. So in the fall, we'll come and pull these pins after the crops are harvested. And in the spring, then we'll come and put them back up and put the pins back in. So in this deer fence, we have 3 openings for gates so that we can access the property. At this particular gate opening, we wanted to stop the wires here so we could put a gate in, but instead of putting another brace post on this corner, which saved us planting a post and a cross piece, we have a cable strung between these 2 posts across the top. So what that means then is any pull that's on this post that way will pull the top of that post this way, which will then transfer all the pressure to the corner on the other end. And I think this is going to work real well since we don't have a real long stretch anyway. It's just transferring the pressure to those 2 corners instead of putting another corner post and brace on this side and corner post brace on that side. So hopefully that's going to work for us, and it should. We'll find out. Okay, so here we are at another corner. We needed to make a corner here to go around the fence, and we did brace these corners. But instead of cutting the wire at this corner and putting an insulator in at every wire, not only is the cost of the insulator, it's just time. It takes not a lot of time, but saves time. We just wrap the wire around the corner and go to the next corner post. You know, I guess ideally you could make one run all the way around the thing from gate to gate, but we don't like to make the runs too long and go around too many corners. We'll go 1, maybe 2 corners at the most before we actually break the wire, tie it off, and start another run. So to come around the corners though, on our hot wire, you have to have it insulated some way, hold it away from the post. And so what we decided to do is we take 3 of these pin lock insulators so that it holds that wire, and you can see I can stick my finger up underneath that wire so we got a good distance away from the post. This is what we decided to do. There are other ways to do it. We saw those big plastic tubes. They make those big plastic tubes longer to go around corners. One of the challenges we have with those is that you can't always see what the wire's doing to that insulator. It could actually rub in there over time and rub through that plastic tube insulator and start making contact with the post. So these we can actually see if we've got a problem. They do make those long tubes where they actually put a flat piece of steel on the inside of the tube so that the wire is pushing against the steel. That's another option. There's many options, but this is what we decided to do. Again, on these bottom ones especially, we want to be able to pull those pins and drop those wires. Okay, so this is a corner where instead of running the wire around the corner and continuing with the wire, we wanted to break the wires and start over because we were getting too long. So this is where we insulated each wire on each run, and we left a little tail on there, so then what we can do is we can come back and hook those tails together so that we get continuous circuit for our electricity. Okay, so when we hang the wires, we get the wires all up, we got to get them tight somehow. And these are called strainers. A strainer, I don't know why they call it a strainer, but puts tension and strains the wire, I guess. This is what's called an inline strainer, so you don't have to cut the wires. And these have holes all the way around them and a square hole in the center. So we have a tool. It's a half-inch, like a half-inch socket. You could actually put a half-inch socket driver in there and wrap that wire up until it gets tight. And then you push your pin in wherever you want to when the wire is tight. There is another method to do this, but you have to cut the wire and put in another strainer with a ratchet in it, actually. And but these are called inlines, so they've got a slot in the side of them. You just slide the wire in there and start twisting it up. And you can twist it up onto the little spool until the wire's tight. So that's how far we've progressed at this point. July 27th, we've got 12 wires on already, up to 6 feet. And now from this time on up, we're going to go 8 inches. So there's 4 feet left. It'll be 10 feet when we're done. And those wires will be at 8 inches. So we've still got to run those around. And because it's so high, we're going to have to come in with some ladders or something, or a platform for us to get up there and finish that. So it's going to be a little bit more effort. But we're probably 80% done with this fence.
That's what's up at Uprec. Hope to see you again next time.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Cross the UP fair, man. Breathe that frozen air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.